Hello everyone, I'm Dominic, and I'm here to talk about something that's been in the news a lot these days. Social networking websites. You know, sites like MySpace, Facebook, Black Planet, Xanga, and A-Town. It seems like every day you hear about the consequences of posting something on a site or writing something in a blog. So what's going on? Why are these sites getting so much attention? Before we get to that, I want to introduce a few people who are going to help us take a closer look at what's good, what's bad, and what's ugly about social networking sites. Say hello to Greg and Tenzin, Carl, and Mobila.
Hey, what's up?
Hi there.
Howdy.
Hello.
We also sent another student, Katie, on an assignment to dig up some facts about social networking sites. Let's take a look.
Social networking websites seem like a new phenomenon, but they've been around for a long time. One of the first ones, Classmates.com, was developed in 1995, more than a decade ago. But it wasn't until the appearance of sites like MySpace and Facebook that social networking websites really took off. These sites are accessed by millions of people, and new sites are created daily. When I started looking into social networking sites, I came across an article in the Chicago Tribune. The headline was, "When what happens on MySpace doesn't stay on MySpace." And I think that pretty much sums up the biggest danger with these sites. When you're sitting at a computer, you feel like no one can see you and no one can touch you. It feels totally safe, so people get careless and reckless, and that can cause a lot of problems.
That's exactly what we want to talk about today.
Wait a minute. We're not even allowed to access those sites on school computers.
You're right. Our district has a policy about acceptable use of the internet by students.
Basically, it says that the district's network internet is intended only for educational and informational purposes, for doing research for school projects, things like that. It even says that all email messages sent or received on the system are the property of the district. Now that's a scary thought. You can read the whole policy on the district website.
Okay, if you want to visit social networking sites, you have to do it on your free time. And you can have a lot of fun with them, if you do it right. Knowing how to safely use social networking sites isn't rocket science. Mostly it's just common sense. But there may be some things you haven't thought about. And you'd be surprised how many relatively smart people do dumb things online.
When you think about joining a social networking site, the first thing to remember is to be careful what you reveal about yourself.
Hey Greg, you've done some social networking online. What would you say to someone who wanted to get started?
Well, watch what you post about yourself. You don't want to provide any personal information that could help someone find you. Your last name, home address, phone number, posting a picture in a team uniform, things like that. But you also shouldn't post your school name or the name of the mall you hang out at. The name of your hometown is one of the riskiest things to post. Be careful when you pick a screen name too.
That's a good point. If you look at these screen names, it's pretty easy to see which one provides the least personal information and is least attractive to some creepy predator. Tenzin, you have something to add?
It's not just what you post, but what your friends post about you too. Try to watch what's being said about you and be careful what you post on a group page. Treat them the same as you would your own page. You have to be super careful about posting photos. Don't post anything that allows people to identify you. It's easy to overlook details that might provide more information than you mean to. For instance, street signs, the license plate number on your car, or a sweatshirt with your school name. And you sure don't want to put out any pictures of you partying or in any kind of suggestive pose.
Katie did some research on this subject. Here's what she found.
You don't have to look very far to find examples of predators who connect with kids on social networking sites. In person, you can tell the difference between a 15-year-old student and a 59-year-old sex offender, but you can't on the internet. One example I found involved a 16-year-old girl in Port Washington, New York. She was abducted and molested after trading messages on a social networking site with a 37-year-old man. He was able to track her down because she had included where she worked in her profile.
You're so right about not knowing who you're chatting with online. That brings us to our second point. Be skeptical. You may have heard the expression, don't believe everything you read. Well, that goes double for the internet. When you're reading someone's profile, and especially when you're in a chat room, trading emails, or instant messaging, take everything with a grain of salt.
I don't use social networking sites to meet people. I'm more interested in staying connected with my friends. I use a site where only my friends can access my blog. People you meet online are not your friends. You don't know who they are.
That's very true. Ideally, it's best not to respond to emails and instant messages from strangers, but a lot of kids do. I think Katie has looked into that.
According to a report from the Minnesota Attorney General, 50% of teens frequently communicate with someone they have never met in person. The same report says that 12% have learned that someone they were talking to online was an adult pretending to be younger, and 11% of teens were solicited online by adults.
There's a danger in chatting with or responding to emails and instant messages from strangers. From the comfort of their own homes, predators can get to know teens. They don't come off like the boogeyman. They are typically sympathetic and kind as they try to gain a victim's trust.
Everybody talks about sexual predators, and I suppose they're the worst. But there are other kinds of predators too. They might be interested in your family's finances or in stealing your identity. You wouldn't want to tell a stranger that your whole family's going on vacation for a week.
Not even if the family pit bull is staying home.
Okay, so far we've talked about being careful and being skeptical. Now, let's talk about being smart.
Social networking sites are a great place to express yourself, but be smart about what you say, because everything you say can and may be used against you. Our team of reporters found so much on this topic that we can't even show it all. So we've done some editing to give you some idea of who may be reading your profile, your blog, or your website.
4 members of the football team were suspended from school today after a photo showing them drinking was discovered on a popular website.
In her blog, a California woman stated that the company she just interviewed with was a joke, and that she'd accept a job there but would keep looking. When the interviewer read her blog, she was not offered the job.
The admissions dean at the Oregon College said an applicant was denied admission in part because his entries on a blogging site included cruel remarks. And in Louisiana, a university suspended members of the women's swim team after they posted negative comments about their coaches.
A 16-year-old boy in Colorado was arrested after police say he showed pictures of himself holding handguns on a popular website. And a 14-year-old girl has been expelled from school after posing as a 40-year-old man in order to threaten a peer. She faced potential charges of identity theft, creating a false identity, and harassment charges.
An 8th grade student in Anoka County is being investigated for creating a fake profile of a teacher that made it look like the teacher was a child pornographer. The case is being referred to the county's juvenile division. And in a related story, a San Antonio high school principal is suing 2 students and their parents for setting up a fake profile in her name, using obscene comments and pictures.
I think you get the idea. You can post just about anything on the internet. That doesn't mean you should, because just about anyone can read it.
Not only that, the things you post can be easily copied and stored. Something that seems very cool right now may not seem so cool 2 or 3 years from now.
Another thing to be smart about is cyberbullying. Cyberbullying comes in many forms. It can be rude, mean, and even illegal. What one person might see as a harmless prank may actually be a crime. Cyberbullies have been arrested and charged with crimes like slander, cyberstalking, and more. If you get an inappropriate email or comment on a blog, don't respond and don't delete it. Report it to the website or tell your parents.
If you want to find out what's been said about you online, you should try Googling yourself.
That's a good idea. If you find something you'd rather the world didn't see, you can try contacting the site and asking to have it removed.
Once you put something out on the internet, there's always a chance that it'll resurface later. But there are some things you can do to bury your digital dirt. First of all, manually delete anything from your profile, blog, or website that might be found questionable. If you allow comments on your page, check them regularly.
There's one very important thing we haven't talked about today: meeting people in person who you've met on a social networking site.
You can get into serious trouble when you take an online relationship offline. No matter how tempting it is, you just shouldn't do it.
A social networking website can be a place to express yourself, to meet people with similar interests, and just hang out.
But when you visit these sites, Remember,
Be careful, be skeptical, and be smart.
Play it safe. You'll be glad you did.